Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Matt Lateplo, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you have joined us for our next live presentation from Silver Tiger Metals. Please note you can submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Glenn Jessam, Chief Executive Officer of Silver Tiger Metals, Inc., which trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbol SLVTF and on the TSXV under the symbol SLVR. Welcome back, Glenn.
Well, thank you so much, Matt. It's a pleasure to be back. And, it's always nice to be able, we trade in the U.S. on your platform and gives access for our American shareholders that we have or will have to trade our stock. And so always nice to be back. And boy, it's a regular occurrence to be able to present. And we always pride ourselves, and over the years, and building a mine is a long process, always coming back and telling people you did what you said the last time. And we continue to do that, and we will do that today. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. Look, let's talk a little bit about what we've been talking about on the macro for the last year. I always like to remind people sort of what we did discuss when I had the opportunity to be in front of you. And let's talk about the macro before we dive right into the project. When I do dive into the project, I know some have seen this before, quick intro, but it's always did what we said. Now what's the next step? And then we'll be tested the next time I come back to speak to the OTCQX crowd. When we talked about a year ago, silver was around 18. Gold was at about $1,850. Silver was at $21. And I remembered going through a long spiel, probably many of you remembered it. We talked mainly about the silver market because we're silver miners, and we'll talk more about that in a minute, about the El Tigre project, but why it was going to be a great time to be a silver miner for the next 10 or 20 years, in our opinion. And we've been doing it for almost 30 out of Halifax here in Canada, all in Mexico. And it was about supply and demand. And I think I clearly said I'm no great person to predict things in the future, but supply and demand is a business concept, and there's just not enough silver. And so I said the price would go up. Today we're at $32 a year later. And gold is at 2,700 almost. When you look at the relation between the gold and silver price, which we always have seen in over our 30 years, maintaining about 75 to 1, it's at 85 to 1 today, roughly. So still a ways to go to catch up. Why was that? Because I'm not going to get into it. I did it in detail on one of my presentations. Go look at it. Because there's not enough silver. 1.2 billion ounce silver demand for primary silver yearly, and we make about 800 million, 150 million of that made in Mexico. That's why we love Mexico. Number two, the individual variables, solar, batteries, cars, being a big draw for that. And then it just goes on and on. Cold sintering, electronics becoming smaller, the new charging mechanisms. And the newest new, and I'm not gonna spend a lot of time, but I'm gonna steer people to it, is a lot of noise now in the press about Samsung being the one to have solved what they call the solid state battery. Everybody's been running for that. They're talking, if you can believe the leaks and the press that's out there, Samsung had done it. It's based on silver, incredibly. It will drive silver demand if this is, in fact, what is coming down the pipeline. They're talking about these batteries charging in 9 minutes, having a 20-year life, and being able to power airplanes. Let's see, but that's the next. And we didn't talk about that last time. I'm watching it very closely, and those who like silver should. It will change that market, which is already under enormous pressure, for the better. But you don't have to believe all that. It's supply and demand in my world. We've gone from 21 to 32, and it hasn't caught gold yet. At a 75 to 1 today, silver would be $36. So I'm still very pleased to be getting ready to put the world's next great silver mine in production. We still feel it's going to be a very, very good time to produce silver. So let's talk about, before we get into the project, and I give you an update. As I said, we've done what we said, and now it's more to do. I'd like to talk about the place where we have operated for a long, long time, almost 30 years. Out of Halifax, the group that I'm associated with has built 1, 2, 3 large mines during that period, and they've sold 2 to majors during that period. Do what you say. And when we look at winning, we don't look at winning on, oh boy, what a great drill hole, stock went up a bit. The win for us is always one thing: put the project in production. We've done that almost every time. And on the few occasions, as you were on the way to production, our projects were sold to majors. That's called track record. And we're going to maintain that track record with Silver Tiger and the El Tigre project. We absolutely have enjoyed working in Mexico for almost 30 years. We've had great success there. We're a Canadian company that really the management, the capital raising arm, the dealing on the front end with the institutions and also with the regulators and also with the platforms like OTCQX we trade on, all of that has to be done. But our capital is raised all over the world. We're very proud to have raised $125 million. We'll talk about that during AMLO's administration the last 6 years to get us shovel ready. Can't wait to give you an update on that. But what really is most important is we know that 150 million silver equivalent ounces came out of the ground in Mexico every year of the 800 million primary silver ounces. And that was never going to go away. That was our logical assumption. We always said, and I think everybody would know, and you've heard me on many presentations, not just here, go look at them. I've always said, look, open pit mining and mining is very important to Mexico. It's very important to their economy. You could say 3% of industrial GDP, of GDP overall, 8% of industrial. It drives states like we're in, like Sonora. We always thought that a lot of the noise around AMLO, Mr. Obrador, a president who we worked and had great success under. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. He basically left. The inauguration for Claudia Sheinbaum was yesterday. And as I had always said, and just pleased to confirm, I always thought that there would be no open pit mining ban during his administration, and there wasn't. That was a lot of the press, to the point even saying it had already been done. It has not been done. And we'll talk about, what we think the future is going to be like. We're just guessing, but we have operated in Mexico our entire careers. We had great success during all of the presidential administrations, including President Obrador's. And we expect to continue that success under the next president and then the next one. We're not going anywhere. We only do mining projects in Mexico. That being said, that's the first thing I want to get out there. So nothing changed with respect to open pit mining. That's a fact. We are very much looking forward to operating under President Sheinbaum's administration. She gave her inauguration speech yesterday. The message that was, and I have reviewed a copy of it, I have a transcript. We watched very closely developments there because we're Mexico only. And what was very fascinating about this was the overall message. It was a long message and was a lot about how she's going to run the country. And we think she's going to do a fantastic job. She was an absolutely incredibly successful mayor of Mexico City before taking on this huge role, and the first female also. What an incredible achievement! And we're welcoming working with and under her administration and her regulations. That being said, the message overall, and people can go see this, was there was a lot, but the overall message was for us was very, very important. we're foreign investors in their country. We have been for 30 years. We've raised our group, I think, over $2 billion and invested into Mexico. And we've employed thousands of Mexicans. As I said, we're a small capital arm. We're a Mexican company. The hundreds of employees we have are all Mexican nationals, and our money gets spent there. So we invest. We think it's a very good thing for Mexico, and we've always had great success with our investments for our shareholders, like you may be listening today. That being said, her overall message, it was foreign, and this is quoted. You can go look at all the headlines, but this is in the speech. Foreign investment in Mexico is safe. Very important. We're foreign investors. We've invested hundreds of millions of dollars, billions over the group's career, but hundreds of millions already in Silver Tiger. Very important. And Mexico will need more foreign investment, and that will be safe. Boy, you can't say it much clearer than that. That was her message. Many people would say, what was mentioned about open pit mining or mining? Absolutely nothing. So really, from our perspective, it's a transition to power. No changes have been made, and in particular because it's been applicable to my project, to open pit mining. And we're going to move forward as we always have, saying we've done our work, we're ready to build. We're going to get the permits we need over the next 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 years, because that'll be the life of this project as we see it in front of us. And we're going to continue in Mexico to do what we've always done, build absolutely profitable mining projects, which give a good return to investors. So, if there's any more questions on that, I'd be pleased to answer. That's a high level assessment, but, we've been very successful in Mexico for almost 30 years. I don't know if I'll live long enough, but I hope to be there doing the same thing for the next 30 years. But I think it's very important that all of that press, all of that news, all of that open pits are gone. They're going to be completely banned. None of that has happened. That's a fact. So let's now talk about the project. I think we've looked at macro, we've looked at price, we've looked at demand, political environment, and you can see the sentiment. Sometimes they say the investors are the smartest people. You could see things starting to change here over the last several months with respect to sentiment in Mexico. You just have to go look at some of the silver mining stocks that operate in Mexico, like ours. There's a natural coming back to where they were. We were way too beaten down. Some of it, I love that new line that they have in America all the time. We don't have it in Canada. Fake news. There was a lot of fake news that really destroyed the sentiment with respect to Mexico. Okay. That's been cleared now. And so, we were beat down way more than we should have been. And now you'll see that I think the Mexican companies will start to basically perform as a stock just naturally, because people realize, wow, Mexico really mining is as it always was. And that's what we always thought anyway. So plus we have a lot of good news to throw into that. So let's talk about the project. That's what we're really here for today. But I think there's been so much question about price and Mexico being beat down so much on sentiment with respect to some of the things we were hearing. We think it's now moving forward, and I thought it was good to get that out there right off the bat. Secondly, let's talk about the project, and most importantly, because that's what we've spent we acquired this in 2017, so we're 7 years in. People don't understand the average time from first drill holes in a project to putting in production are 13 years. That's across the board. So we're way ahead of schedule here. And you know what? I'm very interested and excited to say, we didn't slow down during the last 6 years in Mexico. We went very fast in that 6-7 years that we've had this project. We've raised $125 million during that period, approximately. What's really interesting about that is that, and this is a listing here you can see of our institutional shareholders. A lot of these are American-based. These are the biggest precious metals investors on the planet. And throughout that entire process, starting in 2020, right in 23, 22, 23, right into 24, these smart people gave us, in bought deal financings put together by the smartest investment banks in the resource industry, $75 million in bought deal financings. They didn't run away and think that mining was over in Mexico. They basically believed in our track record, believed in the project, and believed that we would get to build that. That's how these people make a return. Franklin owns 9.9%, 5%, 5%. These are big shareholders, and they backed us and will continue to back us as we drive this project forward. I'm very comfortable. I would have got to see all of them. I just got back from Beaver Creek, 2 weeks on the road, and the Denver Beaver Creek Precious Metal Summit, and the Denver Gold Forum. I would have sat with all of these investors and basically given them the update I'm giving you to a degree. And they put their money in at higher values than we are now. That I think that stock price is going to take care of itself. But they're not focused on that. They're focused on the big prize. What's this worth when we build it? So let's talk about that. That's what I want to talk about today. Quick introduction. Everybody knows where we are, but some may be watching the first time. We're in Mexico. We've been there a long time. We've been in many states. We happen to be in Durango, 100 kilometers from the U.S. border. Why is that important? This is really a mining state. Let's look at my concession package and you really start to see it. Mining is, as you see in the middle, that yellow box, that's 35 kilometers long. That is basically 25 kilometers of the Sierra Madre. But if you look around, and I will spin this map a bit, we're surrounded by some of that town of Escada you see, that's a mining town. That's only there because Cananea, biggest, longest producing copper mine on the planet, massive open pit, is basically to the west of us, Grupo Mexico. Santa Elena, First Majestic's big silver project, 40 kilometers from us. I've been through and around it many times. La Caritat, Grupo Mexico, massive open pit copper mine. Cheese Pond, 95 kilometers. If you know high grade silver in Mexico, a little different, narrow vein, underground only. We haven't done one of those. They're harder. But Eric Fear's done a great job with that at Silvercrest. I think it's producing about 9 million silver equivalent ounces. Remember that number? Trading at about $2.5 billion market cap with about a 5-year mine life left. That's the prize. Get these things in production at these prices, which we think may even go higher, and you get multiples of return. And that's always what we wanted to do. Our Santa Cruz project, you can see there, we basically sold the group to Agnico Eagle several years ago, the Mercedes mine. This is mining country. And we're very fortunate to be in this state because mining, I'm not saying it's king, but it's pretty close. It's royalty for sure. What we have here and why we got this, for those that don't remember, is basically the old El Tigre mine, American mine. There's no new discovery in Mexico. You hear me say this many times. Old Spanish or American mines, we've all discovered under and around them, and that's where all the current, most of all the current mines in Mexico are. This one was special. It produced 100 million silver equivalent ounces at an average grade of 2.5 kilos silver. Can you imagine? The cutoff was 1.2. If it wasn't over 1.2 kilos, they left it in the ground. So they just scratched the surface. Tiny 100-ton per day mill is what they started with. We knew we'd drill under and around it, and it would go very, very, very well. Let me show you that mine. I think it's important so you get a perspective. Well, you know what? I'm going to show you something else first. Where is that? Here we go. This is the one I want to show you. What we're going to talk about today, okay, is only a little tiny bit of the project. You want to talk about blue sky, okay? And I don't talk about this enough because we're focused. Get this ready to build, get it in production. But everything we're going to talk about, there's that old tiger mine I'm going to show you in a minute. This is 25 kilometers we've mapped and sampled. It's all the same. We just haven't got any drilling past here. So we've drilled everything in the middle, 1.5 kilometers around and under the old mine, a couple of kilometers to the north. And why we're very excited about that, this diagram really shows it, is, and I'm talking generalities here. There's the old mine right there. That's the 1.5 kilometers, the El Tigre mine. I'll show it to you in a minute. That's where they took, remember, they took 100 million silver equivalent ounces at 2.5 kilos, average grade. We stepped in and drilled under and around it, a little to the north, not much to the north, got even in the resource we put out. And they had 100. We put 100, rough numbers, million silver equivalent ounces in the open pit, and already just getting going in the underground, another 100 million silver equivalent ounces. That's what we put on the books so far. There'll be more. Now, holding that thought, let me show you that old mine. This is going to really show you. We've got about 10 minutes, so I got to go pretty quick here to get everything out because I want to talk about what we're doing, what to look for, and what we're going to do next. There's the old mine. Beautiful. The old tiger mine. three different veins the old timers mined on. They took all that ore, they drifted on the vein, 1.5 kilometers down 450 meters. I think it's important just for the future to look at this. This was the old entryway into the old mine. That was where all those old timers went, took out for 20 years at 100 million silver equivalent ounces. That's important because we're back in there for the next in the project, which we'll show you. Really what we did is we came in and we said, you know what? There's 100 million silver equivalent ounces right here in a pit. There's all those three veins. They were only mined a little bit. Add to the ends of them, drill north and south, drill underneath it. It's going to go well. It went really well because we found a sulfide zone right under our feet. And we found a shale zone right under our feet, 10, 20 meters up to a kilo, epigenetic of the vein, which means they came from the vein, and a big sulfide zone down here we'll talk about quickly because get ready for some of those drill results later this fall as we get back to drilling that underground, which I think is going to be really exciting for the company. Look, this is the last real technical thing I'm going to look at. This is Tiger 101, I call it. It's cartoon, but it's exactly what El Tigre is for the 3 or 4 kilometers we drilled, and we just see it keeping going for 5, 10 in each direction. We just haven't got there yet. We will in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years because that's what we think the life, especially underground, of this project is going to be. That being said, real simple. We got there, get this open pit, easier, low-cost mining, makes a ton of money, put that on the books, get that to PFS where we can build it. That'll generate 70, 80 million USD free cash flow a year after tax, and then you go and you attack the underground. As we were finished this and started drilling from surface long holes, boy, we were so excited to find this shale zone. We've drilled that over 5 kilometers as you're going. And this is easier. This is really hard narrow vein mining underground for silver. A couple of meters, quartz vein. But boy, bulk mining, we found 10, 20 meters of up to a kilo or more. We thought that was our big gift. But then as you remember, as you watch some of these, drilling the first deep holes a year or more ago, we found this big sulfide zone, still epigenetic from the vein, sitting on we call it the basement rock, the Precambrian granite. That's already 750 by 350 meters by 30, 40 meters wide of multi-kilo ore. So, real simple, road plat. This PFS is imminent. We'll come out on the PE. We'll talk about that in a minute. That will be the document that's done with a bow on it here in the next weeks. Secondly is we have an underground permit. We filed an amendment to get our open pit permit. We think that comes hopefully, if everything is we see unfolding, we get that early next year. But we fully think we're going to get that, as I've said, and I've told you the reasons why. That will be an amendment to our current underground to allow us to do the pit. We will build that right away. Can't stop. That, new government has to get in place next week. It's going to take time to hire the new people. So we're not going to sit there until Christmas and go, wow, twiddle our thumbs. It's back to work. Remember, 2 parts, open pit, big underground. So next step is going to be, let's get back in this underground and let's start drilling and let's bring a PEA out, the first economic test on the 800 ton per day mill, which I have on the mountain already, and which basically is I'm fully permitted for. We'll come back to that at the end because I want to talk a little bit about why open pits are so important in Mexico. 70% approximately of all the precious metals in Mexico comes out of open pits. So 70% of 150 million silver equivalent ounces. Let's just, rough math, okay? That's not going to go away. I never thought it was going to go away. There's nothing in place to say it's gone away or going away. That being said, here's why. You can spend, let's call it $90 to $100 million, $59 million capex, and then your expansion capital, call it $100 million. You spend $100 million and you drive a $300 million USD after-tax NPV. Remember, this is PEA. You're going to fine-tune this to PFS. Some of these numbers are going to come down a little bit. Some of them may go up a little bit. I'm not giving you indications here. That's what happens because you're making it so much more of a tight test that you know what you're going to get when you mine it. That's why there's PEA, PFS, and then fees. We think we'll be able to build on PFS, and I'm going to tell you why in a few minutes. That being said, this thing makes $500 million US over the 10 or 11 year mine life. Look at the operating costs. Let's use silver, okay? 10 and 11 all in sustaining. This was done at 1850. And this was done at 2350 silver. That was last year. We're past that, as you know. So I love, just to make myself smile, I like to go to my sensitivity table, because at today's prices on the PEA, and it's going to change in the PFS you're going to see soon. So much more sharpened test, much more testing that has to be done. It's much more representative of what you're going to mine, because it's a further test. We did 30,000 more meters of drilling, more metallurgy, more geotechnical drilling. We drilled off, measured an indicated ore instead of indicated ore, and all of those things. But look at that, $532 million NPV, short payback, 90% return. These are just at the prices we're at today. Makes $806 million USD after-tax free cash flow. That's why an open pit in Mexico is very, very important for us. It's the way we've always done it, because you need that capital to pay for the development underground and to build your mill for the underground. And that's how we've always planned to do it. Nothing's changed. Nothing will change. That being said, let's talk about what we're going to do. Here's what I want to get people ready for. That's all done. Pre-fees will come. Done. We'll build on that document. We've got lots of measured and indicated ore. You'll see in the PFS. That was always our intention. We told people we'd do that. Hang our hat on that with the lenders, get the money, build. It's a 12-month build. Put that aside. Call it 12 to 18-month build once we get the permit amendment, which I think will be next year. That being said, we're going to get back to exploring. I'm going back to my cartoon. This is what we want to do. We want to get underground. We're underground. We did all this development work quietly over the last couple of years. You remember, I brought in the development company. We don't want to drill 600-meter holes. We want to drill 200-meter holes from underground. So we brought in Cominvi, and basically we opened up the Tiger Mine. It's basically fully 5x5 openings. The old timers left us 2.5x2. Great shape, no good for mining equipment and exploration equipment and commercial extraction. So we brought him in and said, we got this team, we got this underground developer. We want it blasted, slashed to 5x5 meters. That's done for a half kilometer. All done. Beautiful underground development. Such structural work. Back in, because we're miners. Now what are we going to do? We're going to explore from underground. This will also be the main haulage way for the underground mine when we get to that. And I'll give you a timeline right at the end for that. But let's talk about back to my cartoon, which is always important. Now, instead of drilling from here, we're here. We're going to start drilling in October, and you're going to see those results, the old Tiger results. Because let's face it, the open pit, 100 meters of a gram gold, nobody really cared about that. Too much. They're going to care about the 1, 2, 3, 10 meters of multi-kilo that we've been drilling for years. We're back to that. That's great for the market. It's great for retail guys. It's great for people that like drill results. It's only a tool for us to get the drilling done so that next year, in the first half of 2025, while we're getting ready to build the open pit, we come with the PEA for the underground, because you just don't stop. Once that open pit's built, then you got to build the underground, get the paper, get all the tests done, just like we did to get to PFS for the open pit at this point. Now, what's that drilling going to look like? This is what really is nice. Because when you're underground, you have such optionality to drill. We're here, as you can see, we're now underground. So we can drill 20, 30, 50 meters. We're in that big sulfide zone, which is wide, high-grade zones. We can hit the shale zone, as you can see over here. We can drill up. We can drill into all the three veins, all from underground. 600-meter holes turn into 150, 200-meter holes. That doesn't take rocket science to figure out. We're going to have a lot of good drill results come from here, and also be able to really get that ore delineated, move to indicated, so that we can come out with some real good numbers in the PEA for the underground first half of next year. So that's it. I got a minute left. Do what you say. Let's go back and just finish up, I think, on this slide, and I'll see if I've got time for a couple of questions. Number one, pit's ready to go, PFS. We think we'll be able to build on that. Okay, done. Number two, let's get back. Underground work done. Start drilling from underground. High-grade vein, high-grade shale, wide, high-grade, really wide, sulfide zone. Get those drilling done. PEA, first half of 2025. Let's just say, I'm making numbers up here. Let's just say by March of next year. Making it up. I have my permit amendment. I start to build the open pit. 12 to 16 months to build that. That would put me in production in 2026 summer. These are just making numbers up for timeframes. Don't know when I'm going to get that permit. Can't guarantee it. We are going to get it. That's what I've always said, and we see no reason now why we won't. We're in production, free cash flow 70, 80 million USD per year. Boom, done. I catch up on the underground by finishing the PAA, and then into 26 the PFS, and then by the time this cash flow comes, I'm ready to put that as a right permitted 800 ton per day operation for the underground in production. And that's how you become a 5 million ounce producer with the pit. I'll make up the final number. 5 million ounce producer with the underground. So these are guesses, 10 million. I'm trading at 100 million Canadian market cap. The companies that Aya makes about this much, 2.5 billion. Silvercrest makes 9. Short mine life of 5 years, 2.5 billion or so. I haven't looked at them lately. If people can't see the trade from 100, I'm not saying we're going those valuations. Got to be very careful. I'm just telling you what peers that will have the same production profile today as we will have when we execute this plan trade at. So, that's how we've always set out to win. And we're just basically going to continue to do what we say as we have and steam forward to Mexico to put this project in production. I see a few questions. What is the status of open pit mining in Mexico with AMLO gone? Well, that was 1 minute into the presentation. I think we've addressed that. So I hope that I was very clear in my answer to that. Second one, great presentation. What key events can shareholders look forward to in the next 12 to 18 months? I think I've probably covered that with that little timeline very clearly in what we're going to do. And it's real quick. PFS done, back to underground exploration, PEA on the underground. At some point, get the amendment to our permit, build the open pit, and while you're doing that, get everything ready to build the underground, which we hope that if the plan works the way I want it to, will be funded from cash flow. That's it. That's all I got. Thank you so much for listening, folks. And I'm sure I'll be back in 3 or 4 months, and you'll get to grade me again. Have we really done what we said we would?